Hi, I'm Liz from Fast Kitty Crafts. Today I'll be giving a super fun and easy cardigan tutorial. It will feature a vertical stitch pattern with a 4-row repeat, which gives a lot of upscale texture as well as keeping you from, well, getting stitch boredom. The chunky yarn and large hook makes this a super fast and cozy garment you can wear right away. You will need approximately 744 yards of size 5 bulky weight yarn, which came out to 8 balls of this yarn I purchased from Michaels, and it's in the color Sky Tweed. We will be making a size small medium, but I'll show you how to customize it to your size. We will begin by making the rectangle that will be the back of your cardigan. So just grab your M hook or 9mm hook. First we'll start off with a slip knot and then loosely chain 53. And now we will begin our row 1 of our 4-row stitch repeat. We will turn our row of chains over, and then you can see the row of bumps on the back. I like to insert my first stitch into that second bump, and we will create a chainless double crochet. I do it by first starting with a single crochet in that first stitch, and then I do another single crochet in those 2 side loops on the side of that single crochet you just created. I find these are easier to work with and they just look nicer. They don't create that gap on the edges of your rows. And then just proceed with double crochets all the way down to the end of the chain. And now our first row is all done, and you can see that first chainless double crochet fills in the gap nicely. And now for the second row, we'll just chain 1, turn our work, and then we'll place a half double crochet in the first stitch. And then proceed with half double crochets all the way down to the end of the row. And here we are at the end of the second row, and you can see that last stitch easily goes into that chainless double crochet that we made. And now for row 3, we'll chain 1, turn our work, and then this will also be a row of half double crochets, but instead of going through 2 loops on the top, we'll be going through that front 3rd loop that's on the front. This creates a really pretty rib texture on the right side of the garment. And then just proceed with your half double crochets in that 3rd loop all the way down to the end of the row. This stitch technique is also called the camel stitch. So then when we turn our work around, you can see that pretty rib texture. I kind of think it looks almost like knitting. It just gives the garment a really nice, sophisticated look. So now here we are at the end of the 3rd row. So for the 4th row, we'll turn our work, and then we don't need a turning chain. We're going to place another chainless double crochet in the first stitch, but we will put it in the back loop of that top V of the first stitch. So again, it's just a single crochet in that back loop, and then turn your stitch to the side, and then place another single crochet in those 2 side loops. I recommend going loose so that it makes it easier to put your hook in there. And then for the rest of the row, we'll just be putting double crochets in that back loop all the way down to the end of the row. So by placing our double crochets in that back loop, it further creates that pretty ribbed effect on the front. So this concludes the end of row 4, which is our 4-row pattern repeat. And then for row 5, we'll do a chainless double crochet and then place double crochets in both loops all the way down to the end of the row. So then just continue with this 4-row repeat pattern until you get to 22 rows, and your last row will be a row 2. So your back panel definitely has a right side and a wrong side. This is the wrong side, and the right side has those pretty ribbed stitches on the front. So your back panel should measure approximately 20 inches wide from shoulder to shoulder and then 30 inches long. And if you need to make your back panel wider, just add an extra even number of rows, like 2 rows or 4 rows. And then now we make 2 front panels, beginning the same way as we did with our back panel, and then these will be 10 rows wide, also ending with a row 2. And if you added more rows to the back, just divide that number you added by half and then add it to the front. Like if you added 4 rows to the back, then just add 2 extra rows to each front panel. And now we'll just lay our 2 front panels on top of the back panel, wrong sides together, and line up the top edge as shown, and then we'll stitch our shoulder seams. And now we will begin the sleeve. So now we just chain 35. So now we're at the end of the chain. We'll just turn it over, and in that second bump, which goes with that second chain, we'll begin with 4 slip stitches. These first 4 stitches at the end of the row will begin our ribbing for our cuff. Try to keep these slip stitches as loose as you can, so it won't be too difficult to stitch into them later. And then for the 5th stitch, we'll just begin doing double crochets all the way down to the end of the chain. And for our second row, it will repeat just like we did for our back and front panels. It will be a row of half double crochets, so just chain 1 and then place a half double crochet in each stitch across in both loops. So now we're back to those first 4 slip stitches, and then we'll go ahead and slip stitch into the back loop of each of these stitches. This will create the rib texture for our cuff. To be honest, this is the first time I've ever used this slip stitch method for a cuff, but I ended up really liking it. It creates a nice sturdy cuff that looks like knitting. So then when we get to the end of those 4 slip stitches, we'll chain 1, turn, and then place 4 more slip stitches into the back loops. And then for the 5th stitch, we'll proceed like our repeat pattern we've been doing, and then place a half double crochet into that front 3rd loop again, and then continue with the half double crochets in the front loop all the way down to the end of the row. And so for our fourth row, we'll turn our work, and then we don't need that turning chain again, and we'll place the chainless double crochet in the back loop of your previous row. And then just proceed with half double crochets in the back loop of all of these half double crochets from the previous row. And here we are at the end of the fourth row, and then we'll end it with placing slip stitches into the back loops of those 4 slip stitches. So now here we are at the end of the fourth row. Just chain 1, turn, and then do your 4 slip stitches into the back loop, and then the rest of the row will be a row of double crochet in both loops. And then just continue with this 4-row repeat until you get to 22 rows. If you need a longer sleeve, you would just begin with more chains as your starting chain. Here I've opened up my garment and you can see my shoulder seams all stitched, and then open up your sleeve panels and then center them on your shoulder seams and then stitch it in place. And then fold your garment as shown and stitch the underarm and side seams. Now we're going to finish off the bottom edge of the garment. I have the right side facing me and I'm attaching some yarn, and I chain 1, and then we're going to single crochet evenly all along the bottom. I like this row a little on the snug side, so don't put your stitches too close together. And when you get to the end of this row, don't finish off your yarn. We'll just turn the garment, chain 4, and then we're going to start the ribbing around the front edge. So we'll single crochet in the second chain and in the next 2 chains. So there will be 3 single crochets along this chain. And then we'll slip stitch into the next 3 unworked stitches. And now turn your work without a turning chain and skip the 3 slip stitches you just made, and then single crochet in the back loops of those last 3 single crochets. Now chain 1, turn, and single crochet in the back loops of those first 3 single crochets. And now we'll repeat the process and slip stitch into the next 3 unworked stitches, and so on. And proceed like this along that first front edge, along the neck edge, and then down the other front edge. and then you can finish off your yarn at that point. And now it's time to make the pockets. First, chain 15. Turn your chain, and then half double crochet in the second chain, and then to the end of the chain. You will have 14 half double crochets in this first row. For the second row, chain 1, turn, and then we're going to put half double crochets in that front third loop again, and then all the way down the row. For row 3, we'll chain 1, turn, and then half double crochet in the back loop all across the row. So just repeat this 2-row stitch pattern for a total of 7 rows, ending with a row 1. So now I'm at the end of the 7th row, and then we'll just turn and single crochet evenly all along that bottom raw edge. And when you get to the end, just turn and then single crochet all along that first edge. And now for the top edge, we'll chain 1, turn, and then we'll do slip stitches all along this raw edge. I decided to do slip stitches along this edge because it looks a little more decorative and it's a little more sturdy and secure. So now just repeat this process and make another pocket. And now we're almost done. So here I've placed the pockets as shown, and then I just pinned them on and hand stitched around the bottom and the side edges. I hope you enjoyed crocheting with me today. If you did, please subscribe and join me again next time for another fun craft. Bye for now.